Commissioner Griffiths. Here. Commissioner Wolf.
Here.
Commissioner Feldbush.
Here.
Commissioner Schneider.
Here.
Commissioner Wilson.
Here.
Commissioner Volkman.
Here.
Commissioner Hedges.
Here.
For November 16th. Second. Okay. Motion and second on the floor. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
No opposed. Okay, we'll move on to new business. All right, so we've got SE 23-01, consideration of a subdivision exception to allow the creation of one additional lot used for residential home site and zoned agricultural, generally located at 507 2600 Avenue, at the request of James and Carolyn Abraham. Over to you, Tim.
Okay. This is a request to split off 5 acres with an existing home. If you look at your aerial photograph that I included, you can see what I'm talking about there down on the south part of the parcel. Basically the existing use is for a residential home site. There is farming as well, cropland. The parcel is within an area designated as best for development, currently zoned as Ag 40 district. The main parcel is 55 acres, generally located in section 26, township 12, South Range 1 East, on the northeast corner of the intersection of Deer Road and 2600 Avenue. Property is addressed as 507 2600 Avenue. Basically, it is surrounded on all 4 sides by Ag 40 district. There was an approximately 20-acre parcel that was split from the parent tract since January of 2017. I have it on file that the north parcel was split off. Since then, per the provisions of the recently adopted subdivision exception procedure, all parent tracts split once administratively since January 1st of 2017 are allowed a second split for residential purposes approved through a subdivision exception by the Planning Commission. The remaining 50 acres, once that 5 acres is split off, it will have 50 acres remaining. It will need to be remain as farm ground. A residential structure may be placed on the remaining 50 acres as a farm site. However, no additional splits for residential purposes will be allowed unless the remaining acreage, that remaining 50 acres, complies with the platting and zoning requirements of the subdivision regulations. In other words, they would have to take, if they wanted to, let's say on that 50 acres, put another house, that's fine. If they would need to split that acreage off, they would have to go through the process that we're going to be talking about later on with the other case, where they would have to have that property rezoned, as well as show if there's going to be a major subdivision going in there in the future for that remaining 50 acres. 9 times out of 10, that's rare. I don't think we've ever. I think there's only one time that was the staff encountered that, not current staff, but previous staff encountered that back in 2008. I think that situation occurred where they had to split it and get it rezoned and platted at the same time. But since I've been on board, I've not really encountered any of that situation coming up. So public comment, staff has received inquiries about the proposal. I've not gotten the impression there was any opposition, mainly because a lot of times these splits are required oftentimes by lenders. Because like, let's say if you have more than 5 acres and you're farming it and you have a home site on there, they'll want the lender or someone or insurance, whoever it is, may want you to split off, separate the house from the farm acreage, and that's kind of what this is based on. That's why they're doing this. This is extremely common. comments from other departments. I did consult with Road and Bridge Department. They have no issues with the situation. Staff is recommending approval with the following conditions. Record the lot split and covenant provisions with the register of deeds, and I've got that right here. Remaining 50 acres to remain as agricultural land. No additional splits for residential use on the remaining 50 acres unless a full subdivision plat and rezoning to a residential district is approved. Commission options are to approve with the above referenced conditions or approve with any additional conditions as deemed necessary. With that, I'll have you have any comments or questions, just let me know.
All right. That's any comments or questions from the board here before we open it up for public?
Property owners to make a presentation, any questions before I have questions.
Okay. Anyone have the property owner come up? I will go ahead and come on up. I'm going to read something real quick. This kind of will be about addressing the planning commission for public comments. You can go down there if you want. Kind of gives you a place to set your stuff and get comfortable. But real quick, I gotta jot this or read all this for you. Public is invited to speak to the board during the public hearing portion, which will be after this, of any item under discussion. Please raise your hand, and after being recognized, give your name and address and proceed with your questions and comments. Shortly after the applicant presents his case, the planning commission may ask questions of the applicant, and the board will discuss those answers. After the board rests, the chair will invite comments from interested persons for, against, or neutral. The board will conduct discussion and take action if possible. Citizens are asked to limit your remarks. Please do not repeat comments already made by previous speakers. And due to the time frame, please limit your remarks to clear and concise statements. Chairman may have to put a time limit on number of speakers. Board will attempt to be fair, flexible, and to ensure all those that are interested are heard. All zoning changes, conditional uses, and subdivision proposals will go from this board to the county commissioners with recommendation of approval or denial. All issues heard this evening will go to the county commission after the 14-day appeal period if applicable. Should you be interested in attending that meeting, contact the zoning administrator or county clerk for the scheduled hearing date and time. If you wish to file a protest petition, please contact the zoning administrator for the forms needed. Zoning administrator will explain the petition process. Thank you for coming.
Good evening, Planning Commission. Tim done a real thorough job of covering a whole lot of things that, he covered all the bases and everything. But all we're gonna do with this property, all we wanna do with this, all we're asking for to do is split off the 5 acres. That house has been there 100 and some years. And in the corner of that property, it's a rental property for us. We don't live there. We have a kid living in there now. And but when we're doing our trust right now, redoing the trust, whatever, and our attorney says, okay, put the rental in your LLC and put the agriculture ground in your trust. So I guess that's just the way you do things, in the trust world, stuff like that. So he's coaching us on that. On the other hand, we have several people that, including the kid that's living there, want to get out. They want to get out of town and live in the country, and they would like to live. They want 5 acres. They don't want 55 acres. So, and we don't really want to get rid of the 55 acres either, because someday I'd like to put it back to native grass, and I like to shoot quail and stuff. So, but that is the gist of all this. There is no housing development. There is no development. I know Tim's got to say that, but no, not at all. And it's that simple for us. So if anybody has any questions for me or whatever.
Questions from the board?
So I just want to make sure I'm understanding. You're just going to section off 5 acres as just residential, so you could maybe sell it or build on it at one point?
No, the existing property, the existing farmstead is there. We just got that 5 acres
Okay.
surveyed off. That's it.
Gotcha.
And that's, as long as, Carolyn, as long as we have it, that's the way it's gonna be.
Yeah.
And somebody else can come to the planning commission if they wanna change something.
So what I see here, to make a long story short, I see in 80 that the north 20 basically has been sold off at some point in time. You don't own that, correct?
I don't.
Okay, so you've got basically 50 left. You want to take, for liability reasons, get that rental property off the trust and onto an LLC.
Yep. Not the rent, the rent.
The rental property.
Yeah.
You want to be in the LLC. The 55 acres, part of it is tillage, part of it is pasture.
It's all tillage stuff.
It's all
now.
tillage.
Well, we didn't do the ravines and stuff.
Okay.
Or we would have had to terrace it so it stayed, non-erodible, you know, or not stay out highly erodible.
Okay.
Honestly, that 20 acres, and Tim knows this, Jared Miller's who has sold it to. Anyway, he's got first right to refusal on going forward on that 50 acres, you know. So, that, you know, we just, gentleman's agreement on that. So.
Anything else from us?
And just to kind of clarify also, this action that you take on this will be a final action that you'll take. It won't go to the county commission for.
Thank you.
All right,
Yeah.
thank you.
Is that this time we open up for public, correct?
Yes.
Okay. All right, is anyone from the public that has any questions or comments, I welcome you to come to the front. Or that, we say front, but we mean that. You never know how we'll be situated in this room. Right, yeah.
Terry Swearingen, I live at 550 2700, be right across the section from the ground we're speaking of. I want everybody to know right up front, I'm not necessarily against, I'm not necessarily for, I'm here looking for information while I'm here. I understand, Tim, you said that it hasn't happened since 2008, the if and the woods and the coulds, but you just said it did. I'm not looking for a subdivision by my house. Absolutely not. There's a reason I live out on 2700. I used to reside out by the Browns Park. They've been great neighbors. What they did, Jared bought the place, built a beautiful home. I absolutely will not deny any of that. I myself am going through estate planning, setting up the trust and all that. I have a very intricate knowledge of rental property, probably more so than a lot of people in this room. Yes, your attorney he does like to split that off if possible, but it's definitely not anything that's a make or break on your trust or anything like that. I guess my big concern is, my main concern, and like I said, I'm not necessarily saying I'm for, I'm sure not saying I'm against. Please, everyone understand that. And I take them at their word, 100%. I believe if James says that, you know, this is the way this is gonna stay, as long as we own the property, I believe that. I mean, I've known the man for a little bit and I believe him at his word. I take everybody at their word until you show me that I shouldn't. But he's in the same position I'm in with doing it your estate and your trust and everything else. There's a reason you do that, and that's because we're not gonna be here forever. Well, if he's not, what does the next person do with the property? Because I may still be there. You know, how much can this, I mean, I guess I'm trying to find out, how much can this be split, Tim? I mean, how many times can we do this of,
The way
because
that the county has, their policy has been since 2008, has been, all parcels, I mean, and we're doing this now, we have a one split rule. Where
Okay.
you can take any parcel. Now, the trouble is, we never knew when that went into effect, and we went into all of this when we went through this revision to our regs that allowed this subdivision exception. It was really hard to enforce because we never knew what a parent parcel was, what an original parcel was, there was no date. So what I did is we said, since, if a parent parcel has existed since prior to, January 1st of 2017, that's a parent parcel. If they split it since January of 2017, if they've taken that and split it, it can be shown, because I've got it on record.
No,
I've got a file.
Correct.
That's their one administrative split.
Correct.
If they want to split that again, they have to, because we've run into situations just like this. Every day I run into
Oh, I'm sure.
situations where
Absolutely.
you have a house on 80 acres and they've got to split that thing off because mortgage companies don't want that 80 acres tied to that, tied to, they don't want to have to deal with it.
Most people can't afford the 80 and the house is the biggest problem.
Right.
I mean, I completely
And
understand.
but what I'm saying is, this process that they're going through now is allowing this one split additionally for that existing residential home. If somebody comes along, let's say in the future, somebody sells that, if they decide to sell the 50 acres to somebody else, it's basically, this will be recorded at the Register of Deeds.
No, absolutely.
This is like a covenant. And
So when was the
Some-
first split?
if, the first split was back in 2017 or 2018, that north split.
Okay.
And if they want to split the remaining 50 acres, so let's say somebody down the road,
No, absolutely.
they're going to have to submit, they can put a home site there, another home site, they can build a home on that 50 acres, because a lot of times farmers, if they have 50 acres, they can have a home site there, zoned ag. Residential is allowed.
No, absolutely.
But if they decide to split that new one off, off that 50 acres, then they will have to come back to this board with a plat, like this one,
No,
and a rezoning for the remaining 50 acres. And
I guess the subdivision part's the part that
And
really scares
just-
the guy clear out on 2,700. So-
just because I say subdivision is kind of a loaded term, because when we say subdivision,
Yeah, it sure is.
anything that is, let's say, in your mind, you're picturing 25 lots on 50 acres. That's what you're picturing, and they can't do that.
Okay.
Because the density is such that this board would limit the number of lots that would be allowed out there anyway. And
To what?
usually, we don't know yet. They would have to propose. We don't know. I said somebody has to propose it. We have to know.
Okay. No, that's good.
But I can tell you now, I mentioned to you that there was a split that was done by previous staff in 2008 where they had to go through a plat and a rezoning. And that plat and rezoning was 2 parcels. It was the house, and the remaining parcel that was still being farmed was called Tract A, and that's zoned subdivision, suburban residential. 2 tracts. The tract that the house is on and the remaining tract. Those were zoned and those were platted as 2 lots. Nothing went on that Tract A. Okay? That's the scenario 90% of the time that we run into. If a developer wants to come in and put in 25 lots,
No, I
he
get
has the right to come in and request it.
Right, no, I get you on the 90% of the time. I'm talking about the 10%, I guess is the 10% is the time that I'm concerned with.
If something happens, if there is something like that comes, you will be notified.
Perfect, that's all that I ask. Other than that, like I said, I'm not saying that I'm for it or against, I just wanted a bunch more information. I appreciate James giving us some information on it, like I said, because I do understand part of that, because Charlotte and I are going through the exact same thing right now. Very partial to renter property, so I got a knowledge on that. But no, that was my biggest concern is I'm not looking for a subdivision in my neighborhood. I'm absolutely not looking for a subdivision. I wasn't looking for any neighbors, but I don't own it all, so that's not my choice. You know, they've done a wonderful job. They cleaned that thing up. I guarantee you, there's no doubt about that. I'm on the township board. I've seen what all they done. They did a great job of cleaning it up. That pasture had needed it, a lot of stuff out there for a lot of time. There's no doubt about that. That was the old haymaker place for people that have been around here for as long as most of us, but anyhow, so that was my only questions. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Terry. Anyone else? Nothing. State your name and your address, please.
Hi, my name's Wesley Wilson. I live at 2595 Deer Road. And we were just curious, we just came down here tonight to find out how this whole splitting and everything was working. Because we had similar concerns when we moved out to the country to stay away from neighbors. And for too long, we had renters and traffic's gotten a lot thicker recently. So we were just kind of curious how it all worked. And thanks for, you tried to contact us about it. So my question is your rental property not able to be attached to that 5 acres that you have, or that you're trying to parcel
It
off?
is
You're
the
creating
5 acres.
5
That's
acres
okay.
with that home on it.
Gotcha,
Yes,
okay.
it is.
And that's what I was curious about. I didn't know if it meant that another home would be coming in, or it gave the option for it in the near future.
Yes.
All right, thank you for your time.
Okay.
Anything else? What else?
Just like
Go ahead.
I would just like to follow up a little bit though from some of the things that I'm learning here tonight too. Because I thought, like I said earlier, it was simpler than this. Because I thought all we had to do was come in here and say, okay, that's an existing home. That it's on this 5 acres, we'll split it off. And you couldn't, on the 50 acres, add a home. You know, he's saying that you can add a home on 50 acres.
You can technically, if, let's say somebody wants to come in and say, you know, let's say you sell that to another farmer, or if you want to set up another rental for somebody as a farm site, you can legally have another home on that 50 acres. It's where the issue comes is when they want to split that again. That's when because that parent parcel that 20 acres to the north was split off of back in whenever it was 2018. That was the first split that was allowed for, administratively by me. And now, because there was the existing home right now is on there and you have to split that off, you have to split it off based on, I question whether you can or can't. But if you split that off, then that's the second split that these guys approve. You can keep it ag, it's just to make sure that we get, we've been running into problems in the past where people were splitting stuff off and the density in these areas that they were splitting off was so high already that it was causing traffic problems. And that's one of the reasons that we're going through this process, why I had to do this, what they call subdivision exception.
That's what scared people. They see, and I've had a couple people say subdivision. We're splitting
You're
5
just
acres
splitting
in a
it.
house.
Subdividing properties.
Yeah.
Well, what I
It's
could
not to
probably,
let them sell
what would
it.
probably help is if I probably advertise it as a split. That would probably be easier to handle.
But to your question, I thought we were gonna split this off and these people right here protect the county, that there wouldn't be, if one house went up out there, they had to come here and get it okay. Is what I was thinking,
Right, and one of the reasons that, one of the reasons that the county has done this too, is in our comprehensive plan that we just adopted. Our comprehensive plan is a preservation plan for ag land. Okay, basically, that's what it amounts to, is a preservation plan. And this process allows people to do what they want to with their land, but at the same time, this covenant that you're gonna be recording, that we were talking about, the split, is basically an acknowledgement that you agree that you're not going to split that 50 acres up any further. That's basically what that is.
I didn't wanna prolong this any longer. I
No,
just wanna let these people, I thought that's all we had to do is take the 5 acres off and
It
you
is.
guys would
It is.
protect everybody else.
And then the 50, and then whatever's left is gonna be protected because
Yeah.
you're recording this.
Yeah. That's what we want.
Thank you, Tim.
Sure.
All right, do you have any questions, board? All right, you guys have the, staff recommendations in front of you. And the options that have been, that we have. Anything else as well, we're going to approve with the above reference conditions that Tim pointed out. Or approve with any additional conditions as deemed necessary, or of course, not. I have a motion.
I would like to make a motion to approve SE 23-01. Approve it with the above reference conditions by staff.
Motion to approve with the above reference conditions. Do you have a second?
Second.
And a second. All right, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same. And it seems that SE 23-01 is complete. That's for against. So, thank you. All right, now, moving on to Z 23-01, consideration of a rezoning of a property from ag to suburban residential. Located in section 6, township 13, range 4, at the northwest corner of 2400 Avenue and Rain Road, at the request of John McLaughlin. Tim, I will turn it over to you.
Okay.
Thank you.
This tract is approximately 84.4 acres, and applicant is John McLaughlin. The existing zoning is Ag 40. The proposed zoning is for suburban residential. It is located on a portion of the southeast border of section 6, township 13 south, range 4 east of the 6th principal meridian, generally located on the northwest corner of the intersection of Rain and 2400 Avenue. It is surrounded on all 4 sides by Ag 40. And the existing land use around there is a mixture of agricultural and residential, as well as cropland. The background on this is the zoning request is for creation of a single phase residential subdivision. It's of 4 lots, and it's generally located on Rain Road in 2400. The zoning to suburban residential would be consistent with the county comprehensive plan, which indicates this area as suitable for development due to its proximity to public infrastructure. There is currently residential zoning approved in the general area that's for rural residential in Noble Township and suburban residential in Fragrant Hill. I say in the general area, that's a pretty big area, but I said we've set precedent in that part of the county. Suburban residential zoning requires access to or feasible extension of public rural water to serve any development on this parcel, or otherwise proof of adequate water and sewer disposal to the satisfaction of the county. Comments from other agencies, staff has not received any comments from any other agencies. Public comments, staff has received general inquiries and non-specific concerns regarding the proposed zoning change. I'm going to review the zoning criteria briefly, and that's based on 26105 factors to be considered. When a proposed amendment would result in a change of the zoning classification of any specific property, the recommendation of the planning commission is accompanied by.
I'm sorry, can you close the door? That's inappropriate. Thank you, Tim.
When a proposed amendment would result in a change of zoning classification of any specific property, the recommendation of the planning commission accompanied by a copy of the record of the hearing shall contain statements as to the present classification under proposed amendments, and the reasons for seeking such classification. And basically, under item A, which is whether the change in classification would be consistent with the intent and purposes of these regulations. The change in classification would be consistent with the intent of controlled growth within the county, which is part of our regulations. The character and condition of the surrounding neighborhood and its effect on the proposed change. Character and condition of the surrounding neighborhood is ag with limited kind of low density residential. The density of the proposed use would be consistent with other similar residential zoning requests approved in the past. Whether the proposed amendment is made necessary because of changes or changing conditions in the area affected, and if so, the nature of such change or changing conditions. This request is not being made because of changing conditions in the area affected. However, it has been common in recent history in this area to have, non-competitive farmland converted to higher value use, such as a residential or commercial type use. The current zoning and uses of nearby properties and the effect on existing nearby land uses upon such change in classification. All nearby properties are either ag or residential uses. This change in zoning would have no detrimental impact on the land uses nearby due to the proposed lower density development. If this were a higher density, there would be issues with it, but there's only 4 lots being proposed on this. So whether every use that would be permitted on the property as reclassified would be compatible with the uses permitted. Suburban residential allows both cropland and house as well, residential use. So both of those would be consistent with what's being proposed. Whether the suitability of the applicant's property for the uses to which it has been restricted. The parcel is currently suitable for lower density residential uses based on soil conditions and topography. There is limited floodplain within the area to be zoned that would prevent development in those specific areas only. The majority of the area requested for the zoning change is on higher ground. That would be zone X on the flood insurance rate map. Length of time the subject property has remained vacant or undeveloped, that it's not really vacant based on our standards. It's being used as cropland. Whether adequate sewer and water facilities and other needed public services, including transportation, exist or can be provided to serve the uses that would be permitted on the property if it were reclassified. Electric and gas are available within the area. This area is served by well and septic, and I don't believe that public water is in that area. I don't believe that there's any rural water district out there serving them. So this would be basically a well and septic situation. The general amount of vacant land that currently has the same zoning classification proposed, that would be those that are zoned suburban residential. There are currently no vacant parcels with a suburban residential zoning designation within the immediate area. Recommendations of permanent or professional staff is included below. Whether the proposed usage would be in conformance to and further enhance the implementation of the comprehensive plan. Currently, our plan shows this area is suitable for development due to proximity of Rain Road and 2400 Avenue right-of-way. Parcels within 200 feet of the public road right-of-way are deemed suitable for development. Therefore, a proposed subdivision at this location may allow for extension of improved public infrastructure. Thus, if that potential ever became available, it would. Thus increasing the potential tax base. These factors would enhance the implementation of the comprehensive plan. Whether the relative gain to the public health, safety, and general welfare outweighs the hardship imposed upon the applicant by not upgrading the value of the property. Safety concerns, which are typically addressed for residential subdivisions, They're typically related to traffic and visibility issues. Other concerns are related to aesthetic conditions affecting views from specific locations, which Dickinson County currently has no provisions for preserving view sheds. We have no view shed regulations. Road and Bridge Department has indicated there would be no issues with the placement of driveways on the proposed lots, and visibility was not really indicated as a concern. Such other factors as may be relevant. Currently, the direction of development around Chapman has been towards the north as floodplain issues, utility extension, and access become factors for development in areas south and east of the city. Therefore, the area this parcel that is under consideration is located would be more likely to develop as a lower density residential development anyway. Staff is recommending approval of the rezoning to this parcel to Suburban Residential. The land is both suitable and desirable for development. The developer wishes to provide a rural living environment consistent with the character of the surrounding area. The alternatives are to recommend approval to the governing body, recommend denial, or table for further information. I've included kind of an aerial photograph showing you the area that we're talking about, and it's outlined in the larger parcel in white down there. There's a smaller parcel that's existing, and then there's a smaller one to the south of it along 2400 and Rains.
All right, do we have any questions of Tim?
I'm not getting, we're wanting to change an 84.4 acres, is that right?
That's correct.
And is that this area right here?
It's, I've got this here, I'll show you.
I just want to make sure I know what I'm talking about.
Yeah. If you look at the plat that's being proposed.
This is north.
This is the existing, that existing parcel here. Here. This is this, okay? And this is the area here that's going in, and it's basically where this tree line is where it's gonna stop. It's this area right in here.
So this line here is not the 80?
No, he's not going beyond here. This is all floodplain in here, you can't do anything over here.
So this is Rain Road,
Right, and
this is 24, so it's this corner?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's this area right there?
right, where that tree line is.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
I got it.
Yeah.
You say part of it is in the floodplain, Tim?
Yes, and we'll get into that. I'll show you that. I sent you on that other case a copy of the in your packets.
Yeah.
The floodplain map that shows basically where it's going to be located, where the floodplain is located.
That's the next step after this one.
Yeah. Yeah.
Additional clarification or questions? Property owner in attendance? Yes, all right. Would you like to address the board? State your full name and address.
John McLaughlin, 2241 Vane Road, Chapman. I've owned this property for a number of years, and 2-3 times a year I have people coming out asking if I'd be interested in breaking off a few acres for a house. And so I'm pursuing that now, see what the verdict is here tonight. One way or the other, it's up to you guys. Anything else?
Questions?
How far, John, how far are you gonna take it? Are you just simply gonna divide it up into lots and then let someone else put in the infrastructure as far as roads?
There's no roads.
There's no roads being proposed.
No roads required.
This is a short form plat, there's no infrastructure being proposed. And because there's no infrastructure being proposed, he doesn't have to submit a preliminary plat, he's not installing any new roads or anything. Existing roads will be the frontage that those lots will be at.
Will either be rain or 2,400?
Correct. It'll just be a matter of putting in a culvert with a driveway.
Questions? No? Okay. Thank you. Okay, now we'll open it up to the public initial questions. On up to the podium if you still like. Yeah. All right, pressure's on now. Okay. Any discussion? We gotta put our, what we've decided to the test now.
So Tim, these maps go
That's
what we're
it
talking
goes
about
with
now?
they will, right now, you're just concerned with the rezoning.
Rezoning.
Oh, okay,
Rezoning of
gotcha.
that land.
Next
Okay.
step, we're gonna then
Yeah,
approve a plat.
right, and
Okay.
the reason we do that is, and I apologize, because I meant to tell you, the reason we do it, the zoning first, before we do the plat, is because if you okay the zoning, you're saying basically, whether it's his proposal or anyone else's proposal, if let's say he sells later on to that property to somebody else, you're saying that that area that he's wanting to rezone is consistent with what the comprehensive plan wants, and if it's not consistent, then you'll deny it. If you deny it, if you deny the rezoning, there's no point in having to go through the plat. Because the plat is automatically taken off the table.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
So Tim, when you talked about there being ground in what, Noble and Fragrant Hill?
Right.
That was, where is that?
Suburban Residential.
Yeah, where is that?
I don't know what the names of the subdivisions are, but they're up, one is, the one in Fragrant Hill is right there on Union, near Union Road.
Okay, so.
And there's another
what,
one.
7 or 8 miles north of
Yeah.
this? Okay.
Yeah, that's why I was saying in the general area, as this depends on what you define as general area. But we have historically, this board has approved rezonings with similar land use patterns in like what are in this area now, so it's not out of the ordinary.
Alright,
So, just so the applicant understands, I mean, if we approve it, that doesn't necessarily mean the plat would be approved. The plat would have to, you'd have township approval, county approval for the ingress and egress for the
Driveway.
access.
Yeah, driveway.
They have to be, they couldn't be non-conforming lots, they'd have to have enough frontage space, 400 foot, is that right, Tim?
That's right, and based on what he submitted,
There's
everybody,
plenty of room
it's,
for it,
he's
so,
fine, yeah.
I'm just saying, so there, just because the rezoning might be approved, doesn't automatically mean that whatever plat you come up with would be approved. And if it was, that might have conditions on it also, just so that's clear. I mean, it does fit with the plan, it's on Blacktop Road, so you can get emergency access.
Right. It's gonna increase the tax base. And that's the goal of economic development.
anything else?
That's it.
Okay. All right, you guys have the recommendations from staff. Ready? Recommend approval. Recommend approval to the governing body. Recommend denial or table. I have a motion from the board.
Move the change of status for the Z 2301 based on staff recommendations. criteria.
I would like to second that.
All right, so motion and second to recommend approval to the governing body for Z 23-01. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Passes. And we move on. Keep talking about it. So FP 23-01, consideration of a short form plat consisting of 4 8-acre residential lots generally located in section 6, township 13, range 4, at the northwest corner of 400 Avenue and Rain Road, at the request of John McLaughlin.
Okay, and this is the subdivision that I was, that's, the zoning is tied to.
It's the part that we were trying out for before the horse.
Yes.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
It's hard not to look at all this and know about them.
Yeah. This is, again, agricultural land. It is in an area designated as development potential. The request is for consideration of a 4-lot, single phase of McLaughlin Addition subdivision, generally located at the northwest corner of Rain and 2400. Because there are less than 5 lots and no new public infrastructure proposed, the commission will review this proposal as a short form final plat as provided in the subdivision regulations. This development will be served by private well and septic and will comply with other requirements of the environmental code. A portion of the back part of the 4 lots is located within a designated floodplain, and I've given you the contour map as well as the floodplain map to kind of show you. There's a dashed line on the contour map that you've got that I've included. And that dashed line kind of runs along here, and that's the limit of where the boundary of the floodplain is, the regulatory floodplain. Right. And the commission may require, and I have to throw this out because this is more applicable to areas that are closer to the city. But you can require pedestrian walkways and fire hydrants, but the thing is, there's nothing out there that nobody provides, but I have to throw that out there as a disclaimer just because it's in our regs. It was determined by the previous county engineer that subdivision proposals of less than 6 lots would not produce a significant traffic impact. Therefore, no traffic study is recommended at this time. Comments from other agencies, Road and Bridge Department, superintendent sees no issues with the placement of driveways or drainage of the 4 lots. Environmental services, no issues, provided that all septic and well facilities are located outside of the areas designated as the flood. Staff is required to do. Staff has received inquiries and concerns about the proposal. One of the things that was brought up was drainage on the lot that is designated as it's the one that's on the southwest down there along 2400 Avenue. It's that lot that's it's 8.51 acres. And it was brought to staff's attention from someone that back in the 2020 flood that we had, the event where we had a lot of spring rains, that there was a drainage situation there where there was a lot of runoff. Typically, what we would do in a situation like that is, and I'll let the applicant speak to it more than I can, but I think that was kind of like a once in a lifetime event. And so I don't think that's really a regular occurrence where that would, the runoff would be that much of an issue. And
You want me to address that now?
you can wait until I've got to finish this, but just keep that in your head, in mind. But anyway, that came up. There were concerns about someone brought up concerns about adjacent, like, let's say a property owner would complain about farming going on around them, in that residential area, and we basically have a disclaimer in our building permits at the bottom that says, basically that you would be subject to, if you live in the county, you are subject to odors and noises and things that are not customary in urban areas, and so it's kind of a disclaimer for that, and so that's usually not an issue, no one really, but they usually know what they're getting into when they buy these lots, and so, but other than that, I didn't really receive any additional comments. Other than that, I've got staff is recommending approval of the final plat of McLaughlin's edition on the condition that all county building permits, driveway permits, and environmental permits are applied for each lot. And your alternatives would be to recommend approval of McLaughlin edition, recommend denial of the final plat, or table the request for additional information.
Does the board have any questions or clarification, Tim?
Well, Tim, what I'm seeing is we changed the zoning on 84.4 acres, right?
That's correct.
And now we're looking at a plat that's, if I can read this, we're looking at basically 4 lots of 8 acres.
Right, it's going to be
We're only platting part of the 84.4 acres.
Right, that's actually going to be the subdivision, the 4 lots are going to be where that zoning district is applied, and that 88 acres is the whole tract, but you're only rezoning the legal description for whatever is being proposed for the subdivision. That's where the rezoning is going to take place.
Oh, so the rezoning isn't for 84.4 acres?
No, the 84.4 acres includes the area that is the parent parcel.
Yeah.
And the actual zoning is within that area, within that portion of the whatever southeast border, whatever I described it as. That's the part that's going to be rezoned.
Got it. And I'm looking here, I actually count 5.
There's an existing one, correct?
There's an
The one
existing,
very
the
north.
one that's existing, it's been there.
This one.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
an existing.
Okay. I'm good.
So this would be considered the split, so
Well,
to speak, of what
It's
we're able to do and nothing else to be able to change with this 80 acres
right,
moving forward.
right. This is it,
Right.
yeah,
unless it was replatted.
right, because
The
they.
balance of the 80 could still be replatted with an additional subdivision.
Right, with an additional, but I doubt he'd do that because it's all.
Yeah.
floodplain.
It's in front of, I'm not familiar with the property.
Yeah,
Well, it looks to me like, it's a corner piece that's probably a good one to,
and
it's close to Chapman, so.
and when you look at the floodplain map itself, the orange area is what they call floodway. And that's the actual, you can't do anything in there because that's where the actual stream bed is, so.
So is there a attached letter from the county for ingress and egress on Main Road and the township on 2400? Have they bought off on it, and is there attached approval letter from them?
There's no approval letter. I can tell you I was informed by email by both Road and Bridge Department and the Environmental Services Department that they're okay with it. Now, if as far as the township, I haven't received anything from the township yet.
So I would wanna know that we have in file correspondence from the county and the township for ingress and egress. I would want that to be in there. And just because we've had folks that we've done plats for before, and they go, oh yeah, I'll get that. Well, then all of a sudden a culvert's in and there's a driveway and, 30 ton of rock and a foundation, and they're like, well, we didn't want the township. So I'd be most comfortable if that was done. And then I'd wanna know the environmental services, I'd want a letter from them or a email or something,
Yeah.
that the ground will perk or something.
Yeah.
Because that close to the floodplain, that close to the river, I'd wanna just know for sure that
Yeah.
that's handled with excellence.
And those are conditions that you can put on the approval. So what you can do is you can approve it with the condition that staff has, provided this information, and then that way it's, before I issue any building permits on it, they would have to show that it's, this is the case. They would have to submit all the information.
Or do we want that for a building permit, or do we want that
Well, you can-
information for approval of a plat?
You can approve the plat, but you can hold off on recording it until you can say approve the plat and then wait to record it until I get that information in.
I would like it with the plat and not with the
Not with the
land,
building permit.
not with the building permit, because plat, he's done, and then all of a sudden a person owns a piece of property
Yeah,
and gets a lot permit.
and suddenly they find out they can't do anything with it. Okay, yeah.
No offense to you, but.
No, I want that too. I
Okay.
wanna deal with.
That makes sense.
It does, that's exactly right.
Well, I have a question. 2400 Avenue, is that a gravel road?
For a little ways there.
How far?
It's not real great once you get down about a half mile, if I remember right.
So,
It goes down the hill and goes into the floodplain, that's where they quit gravel.
Yeah,
okay, so it goes at least to the
tree
end
line.
of,
Yeah,
to the end of that
Yeah,
plot there.
could get a little more, but it's not a heavily traveled road or anything.
Make sure they get up a gravel end sign, although that doesn't always work. Minimum
Because whoever gets this will probably be asking, you have a tractor about half the time. Can you help me out?
Tim, does the flagpole, lot, does it have 400 foot of frontage on range?
Oh, let's get it out. It's real close. It's close enough. I'm measuring it out to be about 375.
Our reg says 400, doesn't it?
Yeah, and you can, if it, technically, what we've done in the past is we've approved variances to that if it's, within a certain amount and, to that frontage requirement.
I'm not in favor of a variance. I mean, if it's 400, it's 400.
I'm on the same page, because if the next time somebody will come back and they go, well, mine's only 300, and mine only 200. I just got a 50-foot wide lane.
Yeah.
And so it's incremental creep, and it's not gonna change really the scope of the project if you just whittle 12 foot off one and 10 foot off the other or whatever.
Yeah.
And I know there's cost to get it replatted there, with Caw Valley, but all it is moving a couple lines to fit what we're doing.
Yeah.
And
And then we're consistent.
and that should have been caught before it ever came here.
Well,
Our guideline is 400.
the guideline is 400, but I'm just saying though, because of other circumstances, sometimes they can't get that 400.
Yeah, and we've done
that's,
that
I'm gonna let the applicant explain.
I get that, but if we're on the front end of this and we have the ability without creating any undue hardship, I'd be in favor of that, and then just get correspondence from the township and everybody, that township and county on the ingress and egress, and be double sure that the ground will perk, or however it is they wanna do the septic. They've got plenty of ground to keep the septic and the well, 150 feet apart? I mean, they got
100 feet.
Yeah, so they got plenty of room to do that, so,
From the leach field to the well casing has to be 100 foot.
yeah. So, they're good there. And I assume on the river bottom like that, you just take a spade and you'll probably hit water, I suppose.
Yeah, it's about 80, 90 feet there.
Yeah.
You say 80 or 90?
I'm sure, I mean, some road did it according to what you're required.
I think-
I just told Alan, break this up into 4 lots.
Yeah,
This is what it came out.
the issue that we have run into, I know you said that we say that the frontage is 400 feet. There's also another provision in there that as long as it meets a 4-to-1 ratio of width to depth, and that one meets the 4-to-1 ratio.
Okay.
So I'm just kind of pointing that out. So I mean, he can make it if you want to, you can make him put 400 feet in there, as frontage on that lot. But it's meeting that 4-to-1 ratio, and that's what's been historically been approved.
All right, I can buy that.
Well, I guess I'd like to read that. Is it 400 or 4-to-1, or is it 400 and 4-to-1?
No, go ahead.
Very book. I never heard.
You want me to talk about the flooding issue while he's looking that up?
Sure.
Okay. Sure.
And you know, the dash lines run here. And so this lot here, like in 2020, it will get water up into here. And that's it. Otherwise, runoff as far as heavy rains come east side of Rain Road, come through here, come to this corner, come down here.
Just curious, is that off of our new floodplain map where it's every
That's
12
new.
inches?
That's new.
This was
been approved.
what, 2 months ago, a month ago?
Yeah.
No.
Okay, for a subdivision, the suburban residential zone, okay, you have a total of, for the width, minimum lot dimensions, 165 feet wide, depth of 250 feet. Minimum acreage is 3 acres, or 130,680 square feet.
That's a question. So if somebody bought one of these lots from me, could they break it in 2? Since they're only required to have 300 or have 3 acres?
Once a lot is platted, I'd have to double check and see, but I think that once it's platted, you can't always split it off. I don't think.
Then you're starting to get into your minimals of your.
Yeah, then you're starting to get real.
How many times you can split?
Right, and then you get into your well and septic issues and you get too big and tight.
I just wanted to be clear.
Yeah.
So Tim, from what you just read, where do we get the 400 feet?
The 400 feet is for,
Or you haven't gotten there
what we
yet?
did is, 400 feet. 400 feet is what's wrong is, we approved what they call a homestead lot split years ago. And my previous person that said they established, and I think the board established a 400-foot wide minimum for that split for an existing home. And for what they call a homestead agricultural lot split, instead of just a regular lot split, it was a homestead split because it had an existing house on it. Those are required to have 400 feet. And I think that's where the confusion was on there. For a minute, I was confused about it too. I was thinking, but I said, all you're really looking at is what the minimums are for the district that's being applied to this, which would be 165 by 250, which that would mean for suburban res.
And the 4-to-1 is stuck in for a homestead split.
Well, the 4-to-1 applies to this too. So
Okay.
let me look that up real quick for you.
So then the 400 frontage
Doesn't apply.
doesn't apply?
Doesn't apply, because they meet the 400, because it's not a homestead lot split.
Existing
that detail too.
I apologize, it's taking a second to.
It's a big book, there's a lot in here.
I was gonna say, I'd be surprised if you knew it all.
4-6. Yeah, it says here, every lot shall have frontage on a street at least equal to the requirements of the zoning district in which it is located. So you're talking suburban residential is, and this would meet that minimum.
So 165 is our number.
Yes,
250 on
yes. I'm looking for the.
That's a minimum of 165 and a minimum of 250.
Yeah.
Okay.
Not where the 41 is at. Okay, you're fine with that.
You've answered that question well, so,
Okay.
thank you.
Okay, do you have any additional questions from the board? Additional comments? All right, I'll open it up to the public again. Is there any questions from the public? Or concerns? All right. Oh, okay. We had comments from James about, things to add. Is that still-
Township and.
That's still in play, okay.
Yeah.
So,
Township would be blindsided by.
Right.
That's all.
Right. Oh, I know.
so, I'm gonna lean on you here.
Believe me, I know, because they've let me know a couple of times. So.
So we've got our recommendations. And so, and alternatives in front of you. Do we have a motion?
Motion that we approve FP 23-01 with the staff recommendations that we can go ahead and approve it, but we don't record it until we get the letters
That's
from
correct.
the township and the county for ingress egress.
That's correct.
It would be township and environmental services.
And, yeah.
And is there one from Road and Bridge or just township?
Road and Bridge, I could do one too.
We should have three: road and bridge, township, and environmental.
Okay, there's a motion, is there a second?
I'll second.
Does that cover everything you were wanting, James?
It does, yeah.
And in the order that you thought? Okay.
Yeah, so, thank you.
Moved in second, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Same, I guess I should say, okay, so it moves forward with the conditions added. All right, thank you, everybody.
And, old business, there's no old business. I'm gonna give you a little update on the, wind farm proposal. They've, I've been in contact with Annell off and on. And they're looking at probably submitting something for review sometime around mid-March. Around around mid-March. And I told them, I said, it's not going to go to a public hearing until I verify that everything that we're looking for has been submitted, and also to find a venue to hold 300 people. And we're looking at ways of probably reducing the time for the public hearing so that it doesn't cause a problem for due process. I mean, we're allowing, where we can allow the folks to speak, that want to speak on it, but we're thinking about going from 5 minutes down to 3. And also, we may have to do, one of the other things we're looking at is probably for those public hearings, have like 3 Thursdays in a row in case there's like you table it, instead of tabling it for another month. We want to kind of move along, and so make it 3 Thursdays in a row. If it came to 3 Thursdays, I'm just giving you that as an example.
Would there be a public comment every Thursday?
What would happen is you would give the applicant, the first meeting would give their presentation, staff would give their presentation, and then the rest of the meeting would be all public and whatever's, and so you'd be basically continuing the public comment period the following Thursday, let's say, or the following meeting, and that's all that is.
Did we ever find out if we can either limit it or give first preference to Dickinson County residents or
Yes.
landowners?
Yes, Dickinson County residents, and Marion County did that with theirs, is that they gave preference to first come, first serve were the local residents that owned land or were residing there. And then I think after that was people who were out of state, but but owned land, and then the others were anyone else that had general comment from other parts of the.
So we do need to listen to the anyone else's.
Well, to be fair, yeah, I mean, it's open to I've been it's one of those things where I suspect there's not gonna be as many of those as we think. I think it's mostly gonna be folks, in the area that it's gonna be affecting. So. But other than that, that's all I have.
All right, motion to adjourn.
I move we adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor, go home, have a Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Everything that you did tonight will not affect San Diego liability.
Good, are you?